الصلاة هيا فلا هيا فلا الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Inshallah, today I want to reflect on our duty to vote in this upcoming election and how important our vote is regardless of what the outcome is going to be. And I want you to remember that decisions about the affairs of this dunya, of this world, do not come from an Oval Office, do not come from someone in power. Our affairs come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرِ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ. That all matters are controlled by Him, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the heaven to the earth. So this is important to have that in perspective, because every time we talk about politics, every time we talk about election, people always come and talk about the outcome. Well, what if I do this? What's going to happen? What if I do this? What's going to happen? Always arguing about the outcome. But again, I do not care what the outcome is. We need to do our part and we leave the rest for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I remember a few years ago when we had the election for Trump versus Biden, and how Muslims were up in arms about we don't want another Trump presidency because of the whole Muslim ban and him being an Islamophobe, and everyone was so excited that Biden won. But then a few years later, we ended up with a genocide by Biden, Genocide Joe, a guy who is literally funding the slaughter of thousands of people in Gaza. So reflect on that a few years ago. If you thought your vote was good back then and end up that's the outcome, do not blame yourself for the outcome. Again, we do our part and we leave the rest for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I wanted to reflect on a few things that always gets raised every time we talk about politics, every time we talk about election. People objecting to it because it's haram. We should not be even involved in that process. People will even come and say, hey, we're in this country, we're oppressed. We don't belong in this country, so just let us live and, go by. We don't need to be involved. And my first reaction to these people is, I know I don't want to sound mean, but then why are you here? Like, what made you make the decision? Many of us who are here are immigrants, so you were not born here. You actually made a conscious decision to leave a country that you were living in, to come to this country, and then come now and cry that you are oppressed. إن الذين توفاهم الملائكة ظالمي أنفسهم قالوا فيما كنتم. Those whose lives are terminated by the angels, while in state of wronging their souls, the angels will ask them, What was the matter with you? Like, why are you in this affair? Why is your state is like this? What's wrong with you? قالوا كنا مستضعفين في الأرض. They will respond, those people, we were oppressed on earth. That's why we're in this affair. And then the angel responded to them and said, قالوا ألم تكن أرض الله واسعة فتهاجروا فيها. The angels will say, was God's earth not spacious enough for you to emigrate therein? If you truly believe that you are oppressed, then why are you here? But if you truly do not believe that you're oppressed, you're saying that just to get out of your obligation, then that's another matter. But do not use that as your excuse why I am not involved in that process. Because you are part of the system. You made the conscious decision to be here. You made the conscious decision to work here, which means you pay taxes. You fund the system. You are part of the system. Do not just go and then after you are participating in the system, you and I, us individually are funding the genocide in Gaza. Do not go home and say that you're not and feel good about it, that you pray about it. We are funding it. You and I are funding it. But when you were asked about it in the day of judgment, what will your answer be? Did I take steps to prevent it, or did I just sit home and prayed about a lot and posted about it on Facebook? What will your answer be? Were you capable of doing something? Because the problem, as long as we do not vote, we do not exist. When the American Revolution started a couple hundred years ago, what was their biggest slogan? No taxation without representation. Like, how dare you take our taxes and do not have us to be represented in government? But here we are happily paying taxes, but we don't really care about representation. Part of the reason why nonprofit organizations cannot endorse candidates is because these nonprofit organizations do not pay taxes. So these organizations cannot go and say no taxation without representation. Hey, you don't pay taxes, so you don't get to say who represents you. That's how it works. But the rest of us who pay taxes do not have that excuse. The moment you started working, the moment the government took part of your tax, now you can demand who represents you. Because your tax money, that money that you have worked for it, will go towards whatever you tell the government to do. But if you're not involved in the process, the government will do whatever they want. And another excuse that people come up with is that they are worried, and it's a legitimate excuse. I am worried if I vote for someone and then that person does wrong, then I will carry the sin. Many Muslims, especially after, I remember in 2000, if some of you weren't here in America in general, Muslims, I think more than 90%, if not 100% of the Muslims in America voted for Bush. I remember in many of the masajid outside, Muslims standing outside telling people to go and vote for Bush against Al Gore. It was a huge thing back then. Everyone voted for Bush. Only for a couple of years later, you all know what Bush did. Slaughtered Muslims, not just in Afghanistan, but also in Iraq. And all of the rise of Islamophobia in this country. But that does not mean the Muslims who voted for Bush back in 2000 carry that sin. وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. No soul can carry the soul of another person. That's not how it works. We made an educated decision and voted for someone, whether it was Bush in 2000s or Muslims who voted for Biden a few years ago. You made an educated decision. And we leave the rest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in order for them, and that's my point that I wanted to make sure you understand, in order for those people that you are voting for to take you seriously, all Muslims must vote. Even if we become a majority in a city, if you do not vote, you will always live as a minority because you do not exist. Look at Europe. Look at Germany. Look at France, where Muslims in some cities are more than 30% of the population. But look at the laws in France and how Islamophobic the laws are. Banning of the hijab, banning of Muslims praying. France had the Olympics. Muslim athletes were not allowed to play in the Olympics because of their wearing the hijab. How is it a country like France, with that many Muslims in it, French citizens have these kind of laws? Because the Muslims in Europe in general, UK is an exception, do not get involved in politics. So it doesn't matter what your number is, if you're not involved in politics, you do not exist. So when it comes to the election day, and hopefully, if you're not registered to vote and you're a US citizen, today is the last day, register to vote. And if you are registered to vote, go and vote. Vote early. Vote on the day of the election. But you have to vote. You're gonna look at the ballot and you're gonna look and see people on that ballot and you have no idea who to vote for. And I can tell you, generally, if we are in a just society, you would want to pick someone who is competent and someone who's not corrupt. Al-Qawiyyu al-Amin. And maybe some of you will come to the conclusion that one of the people on the list is competent and not corrupt. And maybe you're not, and you're gonna look at them and none of them are competent and none of them are not corrupt. But before I talk about how you vote, but a disclaimer, I will not tell you who to vote for. I'm just telling you what the process is like. You as a voter, when you're voting, many scholars actually equated that with shahada, giving testimony. It's the equivalent when you have, even in the Khilafah, people had to go and give bay'ah, give the pledge of allegiance to the new Khalifa. And the process of Khilafah was through shura, consultation, people coming together and agreeing on who the next Khalifa is going to be. This is a similar process, not exactly the same, but very close to it. You are given the opportunity to go and choose who your next president is going to be. And what the majority of people will decide on, that's what goes. It's not 100% consultation, but close enough. Now, you go and vote. And one important thing that you need to understand, you as an American citizen, for those of you who are, you have more power than any other person in the world. Because you get to elect people who change politics, not just in this country, but throughout the entire world. You have the power to stop injustice happening in other worlds. And I told you at the beginning, I know the outcome of this election might not stop the injustice that's happening in Gaza. I know that's gonna, for a fact, it's not going to change it. We all know that. I'm not here to tell you to go and vote because hopefully someone who's going to get elected is going to stop the genocide. It's not going to stop. The choices that we have, the outcome is not going to change that. The people of Gaza will continue to be slaughtered after the election. Do not think November comes, genocide stops. It will continue. This is just a fact. But what I'm telling you here is that even if it does not stop, we can put the seed for a change that could happen in this country so this does not happen again in the future. But we cannot make any change when we're not participating. You cannot come and tell me I do not want to participate, period, and expect a change to happen. Let's participate first. And then slowly, even if it takes us 10 years, even if it took us 100 years, even if we don't see the outcome ourselves, but our children see the outcome, I will go for that. I do not want my children to witness more genocides. So at least do it for them, not for yourself. Maybe chances are you and I will die on this earth and there's still going to be injustice in this world. Fine. But let's plant the seed for our children not to have to bear that. من رأى منكم منكرا فليغيره بيده فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. If you see something wrong, try and change it. Physically, go and change it with your hand. If you can't, then with your tongue. If you can't, then at least pray about it. And this is the weakest of faith. We can do something about it physically. You can go out and lobby and talk to politicians over and over and over again. I know it's exhausting. Doesn't matter. Keep going. Speak about it. Vote. These are all actions. Like when the election ends, what did the people say? People have spoken. That's an action with your tongue. Go and vote. Just so they understand that we do exist. Now, we come to the biggest question. Well, I'm going to go and vote. I'm going to have to vote between a guy who wants genocide and another woman who is participating in a genocide. Who should I vote for? Right? And I'll answer two things. One, if the choice is between the two. And I will give you, and I know a lot of scholars have been talking about this for the past year. So I went and I brought a book by Shamsuddin al-Afghani. And he talked about this concept when you're in this dilemma, right? You have to choose between evil and evil. What do you do? And in the book called Kitab Juhud Ulama al-Hanafiyya fi Ibtal Aqaid al-Quburiyya. Okay? And again, the author is Shamsuddin al-Afghani. And I'm going to read some of the things that he wrote, certain rules that he wrote, and I'm going to read them in Arabic and I'll translate them to English. Al-Qa'ida al-Ula, the first rule that he wrote is, and then he wrote it in different ways, different methods. One, درء المفاسد أولى من جلب المنافع, or دفع المضرة أولى من جلب المنفعة. Basically, what this means is preventing harm is more important than bringing benefits. When you make a decision, you're going to come into a situation where you're now looking at the harms and benefits. And sometimes you look and you make a decision based on, oh, well, who's between the two candidates will be more beneficial for me. And sometimes the decision is who is between the two candidates is less harmful for me or for the community. And what the rule says is to pick based on who is less harmful. That's the Al-Qa'ida al-Ula, the first rule. Al-Qa'ida al-Thaniya, the second rule, and again, he says it in different ways, and I'll read all of them and then I'll comment at the end. اختيار أهون البليتين. choosing the lesser of the two evils. الضرر الأشد يزال بالضرر الأخف. The more severe harm is removed by the lesser harm. المبتلى بين الشرين يتعين عليه أهونهما. The one afflicted between two evils must choose the lesser of the two. يختار أهون الشرين. He chooses the lesser of the two evils. And another way he said it, إذا تعارض مفسدتان رعي أعظمهما ضررا بارتكاب أخفهما. If two evils conflict, the greater of the two is taken into consideration by committing the lesser of the two. And he continues, إذا اجتمع للمضطر محرمان كل منهما لا يباح بدون الضرورة وجب تقديم أخفهما مفسدة وأقلهما ضررا لأن الزيادة لا ضرورة إليها فلا يباح. If the person in need is faced with two forbidden things, each of which is not permissible without necessity, then the lesser of the two in terms of corruption and harm must be preferred because there is no necessity of the excess, so it is not permissible. All of this, again, different ways of saying what? You have two evils to choose between them, between the two. Pick the lesser of the two evil. And he goes on and give examples. For example, well, it's evil to destroy a masjid. But what if the masjid is built on a grave that people are going into the masjid now and praying to the people who are in the grave, whether they're considered them saints or whatever. And he says, well, this is evil and this is evil, but now which one will prevent harm? Well, he's concluded that then the masjid needs to be destroyed, so it prevents people from committing shirk, because that is more evil. Again, you have to choose between the two lesser evil. Now, if you are making the choice between two candidates, then the choice of between the two evils is what? Well, who is committing genocide and who is committing genocide? Both will commit genocide, and I told you that from the very beginning. You look at, well, someone is going to drop 1,000 bombs, but with the 1,000 bombs, he will bring in some food. And the other guy, he's going to drop the 1,000 bombs without food. So you choose according to that. There's one candidate who is more, when it comes to Islamic principles about family values, is more in line with it, and the other candidate is not. One candidate is against immigration. Another candidate is pro-immigration. One candidate is about your healthcare, another about this not. So you can look at all of these issues, and you can come up with your own conclusion. Who is the lesser of the two evil? And you vote accordingly. But I'm also reminding you that there's not only two candidates on the ballot. There are multiple candidates in the ballot. So if the issue of genocide is a stressing issue for you, they know that there are people, other candidates, third-party candidates on the ballot who are 100% against the genocide in Gaza. And I told you at the beginning, the genocide will continue. And those third-party candidates will end up most likely not win. But you're voting your conscience. And you're voting telling people who you are and that you exist. That option is also there, that you can vote for a third-party candidate. And again, I'm telling you at the beginning, I will not tell you who to vote for. I am telling you to go and vote. Here are some tools. Think about it, but please vote. When Musa alayhi salam was on the ship with the Khidr, and he made a hole in the ship. In Surah Al-Kahf. فانطلق حتى إذا ركب في السفينة فخرقها. قال خرقتها لتخرج أهلها. Like Musa saw this, like, you're supposed to be my mentor, and we get into the boat, and these people were nice enough for us to be on the boat, and you go and you make a defect into it. Why would you do that? But Al-Khidr, he saw two harms happening. One, there's a pirate coming to take the ship. So that's option number one. Option number two, I create a defect into the ship that we're in, which will harm the people that just took us in. Which one should I choose? He chose the latter. He chose the one where I am taking this harm because this one is better than the other harm. So that's if you're choosing between two evils, choose between the lesser of the two evils. But again, you also have options to choose between more than two people because you have the options of third-party candidates. Please go and vote. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وأتوب إلى الله. الحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. So again, I am really hoping and praying and pleading that anyone, if you are an American citizen and you're not registered to vote, please register to vote today. Today is the last day. If you are registered to vote, I know how hard it is to get yourself to go out and vote knowing what the outcome is going to be. But I'm begging you to still go and vote. This is how we build momentum, probably not for ourselves. We probably will never see the outcome, but I'm praying for those little kids out back there to see the outcome. Plant the seed for them. And remember, when you get the ballot, it is not just about the federal election. It's not just who's going to be our next president. There's also local candidates, whether people running for state representative, people running for whatever it is that's going to be on your ballot. Look up your ballot before you go and decide who you're going to vote for. And if you don't like them, go still and vote uncommitted, other, right? Whoever names you, just go and vote. And also remember, there are going to be issues that not just affect you, but affect your children that you can vote on, that once they are voted on, they will become the law of the land here in our state. Some of these issues are auditing the legislature. Would you want the legislature who passing laws to be audited or not? That's a question on the ballot. Complicated, look it up. There's a question about eliminating the MCAS. This is an exam that our children take after the high school. Do you want this exam to be eliminated or not? Look it up. The impact of this will impact our children. How do you want to vote for that? What do you want the law of the land to be for our kids who are in high school? Vote accordingly. There is the Uber and Lyft drivers. Are they allowed to unionize or not? I know that we have so many members of our community who are Uber and Lyft drivers. Do you want them to benefit from this law or not? Vote accordingly. How about legalizing psychedelic drugs? That's on the ballot. Some of you were upset during the marijuana, when it was on the ballot, but none of you voted. Well, you have a chance to vote. Do you want psychedelic substances to be legalized for medical use or not? I don't know. Look up the issue and decide accordingly. And there's also the question about minimum wage. Decide. Do we have people who work in small businesses? We have people who have different jobs. How is this going to impact you, what your minimum wage is? This is on the ballot. It will impact you and it will impact your children. So go and vote. If you don't like voting, if you don't like because of the whole federal issue, you have issues that will impact you instantly. So please vote. And do not forget our brothers and sisters in Gaza throughout this process, Because I do not want you to vote and say you've done your job. Vote, and then let's get together again and keep on lobbying and keep on pushing till this genocide stops. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك والنار. اللهم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على طاعتك. اللهم اغفر اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في فلسطين. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في فلسطين. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في غزة. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في لبنان. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في سوريا. اللهم صل على رسول الله وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد محمدا رسول الله هيا على الصلاة هيا على الفلاح قد قام الصلاة قد قام الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استقيموا يرحمكم الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفر إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just inshallah, a few reminders. Please don't forget your message from your donation on your way out. Jazakumullah khairan. Inshallah, tomorrow night after Salat al-Isha, we are talking about the 5 questions that Imam talked about. We're gonna explain them and talk about it, inshallah. So please join us tomorrow night for explanation of the 5 questions, the yes and no, what each means, inshallah. Also, tonight, inshallah, at 6:30, from 6:30 p.m. till 9:30 p.m., we have our girls' youth program that they are participating in the charity week, and they are selling stuff for Palestine. Please join us, tonight, inshallah. Also, on Sunday, we have a brother, what's his name? We're talking about, no, we have brother Zanan Ganek. He's going to be talking Sunday night after Isha. He's going to be talking about what? About, no, it's not investing. He's an entrepreneur whose latest startup, after fund based in Chicago, seeks to revive the digitize the sunnah of the waqf among the next generation of Muslims, enabling long-term impact and institutions building, inshallah. So this is 3 events happening. Today we have the bazaar or the for charity week for the girls, inshallah. Tomorrow we have the elections, explaining the elections, the 5 questions. And Sunday night, inshallah, we're having the brother. He's participating in the Harvard Finance Conference. That's why he's coming on Sunday. So the only day he's available, he's gonna talk about waqf and digitizing waqf, inshallah. What does that mean for the next generation, inshallah? Jazakumullah khairan, barakallahu feekum.
Assalamu alaikum. And if you live in the area of Shrewsbury and the West Borough, there will be the world-renowned scholars or reciter of the Quran like Sheikh Muhammad Jibreel and Sheikh Ibrahim Wa'il and Yahya Hawa, Sheikh Yasin Tawfiq. All of these shuyukh are coming on Sunday. So there's so many events, so you can pick and choose, inshallah. And it will be on Sunday. Initially, it says on the flyer, there's somebody, when you leave, you'll pick up a flyer. It says on it $25 a ticket, but they're given this for free. So it's open and it's free. And it's a night or a day. At the end of the day, you live with the Quran with the most popular muqri, like Sheikh, the voice of Sheikh Abdul Basit, Sheikh Khalil Husari. And this is given by Sheikh Ibrahim Wa'il. Please pick up the flyers at the door. And, if you want to participate, even though it says $25, it's a free event. Jazakumullah khair.